This is the Music Storm podcast where we discuss music from so many angles, from artists, producers to the listeners, but with the main interest with the music industry as a whole. Today we got Andrew Revelle. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm doing good, man.
Listeners probably don't really know you, of course, so start off like where you're from and what do you do, Andrew?
My name's Andrew. I'm
Yeah.
from Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I just work in a pizza shop that my family owns, but so I'm more of like a listener to music.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of have grown around it like my whole life for the most part. I have a lot of friends that are just like in the music industry that like either play in bands or are
Mm-hmm.
audio engineers, things
Y-
of that nature.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You got like a lot of influence for, I guess, music, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people that I've met online too are more into the music industry,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then just a lot of people that I talk to.
Yeah. Like how come you just stayed as a music listener? Why haven't you started like a band or something new, right?
That is a great question. So the reason I haven't necessarily started a band is I've always like wrote music and things like that on my
Mhm.
own, but it's always been something that's like more of a personal outlet for me that I kind of
Okay.
just have always kept to myself. Um, I used to be in like chorus in high school, and I got into select chorus, which is basically just select group of people from your high school. And like my experience there just put me off completely, like performing live music and stuff. I
Oh.
hated doing it with that group of people. So it kind of put me off from making music and stuff for a while. But recently, after going to live shows when coronavirus wasn't a thing, um, I realized that the group of people that you're with or the type of community that you have around you can really influence that. And so, since I've had a lot of time off during Corona, I've started writing music. I don't know if I'll ever release it because
Mm.
it is still super personal, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, who knows? Who knows?
So what kind of like music are you writing right now? Is it like folk or like I don't
I'd
know,
say
I don't know.
it's on the border of like punk rock to folk punk side of things. Because
Ooh.
my biggest influences when it comes to music are bands like Modern Baseball, the Front Bottoms, and then from the other side of things, the more folk punk side like Pat the Bunny, Ramshackle Glory, bands like that.
Okay. Okay. Have you like met those bands at all or any like interaction with those artists that influenced you?
No, so from the folk side of things, Pat the Bunny, he was an artist kind of before I started getting into it. And so a lot of people in the folk punk scene
Mhm.
talk about things like drug abuse, stuff like that, which has never been something that I've necessarily struggled with. But specifically, Pat the Bunny, he kind of later in life realized that like him being around that scene wasn't great for him. And so he kind of moved out of it. So by the time I started listening to him and stuff, he's kind of disappeared from the internet and
Jeez.
stuff like that. Like it's kind of hard to keep track of people. But I've seen the Front Bottoms live. I haven't met any of them. Um, but as far as like punk rock goes, a lot of my friends and a lot of the bands in the local scene in general play a lot of punk rock. So I've been able to talk
Mhm.
to them, get inspiration from them.
That's interesting. Like I did not know like Rhode Island like influences like punk rock. Like for us in like Canada, it's like there's a bunch of influences, but the main thing that I've noticed like for the smaller bands is metal, which is cool.
Yeah. Well, I would say that as far as punk rock goes, I would say one of the biggest scenes is obviously like West Coast, like California. That's where you get like Green Day, bigger bands like
Hmm.
that. But it seems to me, at least, that a lot of people my age that I associate myself with um, kind of went through the same experiences that you hear bands like that are in pop punk or rock like sorority noise, modern baseball, citizens, bands like that. They kind of relate to those things more. So I'm always like listening to what my friends say or like people that I know that play music. And I also just try and watch as many interviews as possible as I can with artists that I like, because you start to understand them as a person, and they start to like talk about how they write music, stuff like that.
Mhm.
So
Has your parents influenced you at all with music?
uh they haven't influenced me specifically with music, but they have
Mhm.
given me a background of a bunch of different types of music. So I grew up
Okay.
with pretty much just my mom, but my mom listens to music from like oldies, like Fat Domino, like really old music, like Under the Boardwalk, up to like she was a big Nickelback fan for a while when
Hey.
I was younger, so that was
Okay.
like all I listened to. But my grandmother too, when I was younger, all she would play was like Kenny Rogers, Tim McGraw. So I got used to that type of music, and that music when I was younger, for the most part, kind of started my outlook on life differently when I was young, because you listen to Kenny Rogers, rest in peace, who at the
Rest in
time
peace.
when he like put out Water and Bridges, which was the album that I listened to the most, was starting
Mm.
to talk about like huge changes in America. Like I in the song Past 10 Years, he's like the best golfers black, the best rappers white, and it's about damn time. So you start to hear things about like movements and stuff like that when I was like super young. So so the music that they imposed on me kind of gave me like big influences and a different outlook on life for the most part.
Yeah, like for me, for influences, I had like Nickelback, Bon Jovi, Michael Jackson. Like, there's a bunch of influence for me for like
Shout out
broad
Bon
range.
Jovi.
Bon
Meatloaf.
Jovi.
My friend, like his car radio got stuck on one CD, and it was just a Meatloaf CD that he could only play in his car over and over again. And it was the funniest thing ever to just hop in
Oh,
his car
yeah.
and hear one Meatloaf track over and over.
That'd be hilarious. I will love that. So, like, why do you think like a lot of like people and listeners limit themselves to like one specific music genre? Why not go to like other music genres, you think?
I think it's like there's always just so much music out there being pushed all the time that it's hard to be like, but this type of music or this band that I just listened to, they're uh they're saying to listen to this band, and that's the type of music I like. So I want to listen to that before I go and move over and listen to like a rap album. Like I'll try and schedule it in somewhere, but there's always so
Yeah.
much music coming. And then you start to have people that almost gatekeep certain communities. Like you hear people being like, oh, I bet you didn't listen to this person when they put out this album. And it kind of puts you off from certain areas of music. Uh, like you see like right
Hmm.
now with like unfortunately like rappers and uh influencers passing away, and people are like, don't try and hop on the trend now that they've passed, and it kind of
Right.
pushes you away from wanting to like get into that scene of music.
Yeah, it's pretty sad just seeing like all these artists and influencers are like, oh, I finally heard about this artist once they were dead. Like for myself, even I did not hear about, I think it was Mac Miller. He died, right?
Yeah,
Just making sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I did not hear about him until he died, which is pretty sad. And I hated that.
Yeah, Mac Miller was another one of those people. I remember I used to just constantly have MTV on my TV, and like I'm the type of person that has to sleep with noise on. And I remember every time I'd wake up in the middle of the night, there was one Mac Miller lyric they would play on MTV over and over, and it was like, I close my eyes. Wait, my eyes close before I. Wait, what is it? It's like, uh,
What?
I close my eyes before I cross the street, or like I don't look both ways. I close my eyes before I cross the street. And so like I never like figured out what song it was, but after like a couple of years, I was like, damn, I used to hear that all the time. Let me actually give Mac Miller a listen. And then my cousin was like a super big Mac Miller fan, and the music that he put out sounded similar. So I started listening to it, and then like a year or two later, he passed away. But
Dang.
rest in peace to the most dope.
Rest in peace, dude. Rest in peace. How would you talk to someone trying to find like their favorite music genre, you think?
Ooh, well, that see, I wouldn't just outright ask them like, "Well, what's your favorite music genre?" Because I don't
Yeah.
want them to say something like rap, and then I'm like, "Shit, dude, I'd be over here listening to like anarchists scream with a guitar, and it doesn't sound good." So most of the times, I think if I'm like I don't really ask people that aren't my friends like their music taste. I
Mhm.
just kind of like, as far as being on like the internet mostly nowadays, you start to hear what they're playing, or if you're in the car with them and you listen and you're like, oh, what are you listening to right now? That's kind of like where I'm at. Like it,
Okay.
I had a friend for a while when we started going to the gym. I wasn't big friends with him at the time, but we just decided we were going to start going to the gym together. And he would drive us every day. And so he used to play bands, or he plays bands in his car, like Movements or Tiny Moving Parts. And I started listening to those and I was like, oh, I really like these bands. You might like this band that's slightly similar to them.
Mm,
And then you start to get into the conversation of like, oh, I
nice.
saw this person live. Or you can also look at people's tattoos and instantly tell kind of like what
True.
spectrum of music they're on a lot of times.
True. Like I want to get like a couple of tattoos. I think one specific tattoo is like a band. I think Bad Omens. It's like their
Okay,
logo,
yeah.
but also I just love like I'm Christian, of course. So it's like it's a
Yep.
representation of like their band, but also it's still Christianity because their logo is just a crown of thorns, right?
Yep.
So it's like why not get both? You know?
Yeah, wait, are you filming video on this?
Yes, I'm filming a video on this.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, most people, if I'm streaming online or something,
Yeah.
they see all the Chance the Rapper posters and just think, oh, this
Mhm.
kid's only into like Chance the Rapper or like gospel rap. And it's like so completely different. Like, Chance is a big part of my life, but
Mhm.
like, I mean, if I move out of the way, there's like Johnny Cash,
Oh yeah, you have the Green
got
Day
like
in the background
Watsky, you've
too,
got
right?
Green Day,
Yeah,
Kurt
like
Cobain.
dude, you have a wide range of music genres, dude. Like you're the same with me. I listen to everything, like Green Day, John Tronova. I don't know. Like there's a bunch of stuff that I listen to. Even there's
Yeah,
so much.
I feel like I say that a lot, and then people are like, "Oh, well, then of course you know this band," and I'm like, "I don't know who that is,"
I don't know either,
because there's
man.
just so much music.
It's insane how much music there is out there and the amounts that is still the to me, I think recently I was just thinking about this. Like we're probably not gonna find like our most loved favorite band still probably. Like we have like an artist
Yeah,
probably that we really really enjoy and think, "Hey, this is our favorite band." But we probably will never find our actual favorite band in like our lifetime probably because there's so many bands and artists coming out with so many stuff.
yeah. Well, I mean, maybe not our lifetime, but where we are right now, because I
Yeah.
mean, we have to find our favorite band. So, like, we're gonna die one day, and at that time, you're gonna have a favorite band, and you're gonna be like, "Oh, well, that's my favorite band."
Oh
But
yeah.
I do agree with that. Like, when I was in high school, I'd say Chance the Rapper is like my favorite
Mhm.
artist, but like slowly he's obviously still up there, but I would say right now my favorite band is the Front Bottoms or Modern Baseball. So
Mhm. Yeah,
you're always
like
growing as a person.
that is true. Like you change every single year. Like every single like year I change like what I listen to. Like what I saw on my Spotify Wrapped, it was interesting. Like last year or like this year, I guess it changed from metal to hip hop because I started listening to a lot more hip hop rap kind of stuff the last year, and it's so cool just seeing like how much you grow in yourself and checking out different kind of influences for music for sure.
Yeah, because I think for me at least, I tend to lean towards the music that I can relate to the more side of struggles that they're rapping or singing about. Like
Yeah.
I don't always want to hear like upbeat music. I tend to try and find a connection in music to people that are experiencing the same things I'm going through. So like in high school, when I was listening to like Prom Night and 10 Day by Chance, and he's talking about being in high school, getting suspended, and like his high school experiences, I related to that. Whereas like nowadays I relate to more like Modern Baseball, talking about like a girl that broke up with them or something.
That's great. I could totally relate to that, man.
Yeah.
Totally. But I'm the same thing with you, man. Like I listen to the song and for the lyrics and everything. If they relate to me on some kind of certain level, for sure, I go hard deep into those lyrics, find the meaning about it, and try to see what the band or artist was trying to get out of the song for sure.
Yeah, yeah, same. And
Yeah.
like it's to the point where now every time I'll hear my friends say a sentence and I listen to so much music and try and remember everything they say, where as soon as they finish the sentence, I'll finish it with like a lyric from like a song and they get so pissed at me. Like they'll say a random sentence and like they won't know that I'm gonna do it, even though they probably do by now because I do it so often. And I'll just relate it to like some song lyric that I heard and they get so annoyed with it.
That's funny. Like, I think it was like years ago I started noticing this, and it's just the odd song. I just remember like their song title, and then I'm like, oh, they mentioned this song title in like their conversation. I'm like, oh shoot.
Yeah, I remember one of like I was listening to Modern Baseball, and for the
Mhm.
longest time, there's a lyric in one of their songs that goes, "I'll leave the steady hands to Sean," and it never made sense to me. And then I started digging deeper into the band and realized that the drummer from the band has their own band called Steady Hands, and I was like, that's where they get that from.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. How about like the idea of the music industry for yourself? Like thoughts about like everything as a whole. What do you think about the music industry for yourself?
I think right now it must be so tough to be in the music industry because
Mhm.
you just can't get a band together like in person to go do everything at once. And then you can't play live music. So how do you like make money or like grow your fan base? And I'm seeing so I follow battle rap a lot. So
Mhm.
a lot of battle rappers and they're always talking about like you guys need to stop trying to go to the studio and just make a home studio and record at home for yourself. And I'm like, that's got to be so tough for these
That
people.
is weird. Huh. Yeah, I've not listened to battle rap stuff. I really need to probably and get an idea on how it works and everything. But like,
I'll recommend a battle rapper to you that I think you'll like. His
okay.
name's A Ward, and I recommend him because he's a Christian rapper, but he doesn't throw like shove it down people's throat too much, and he's
Yeah.
fire.
Oh, okay.
He's
Okay.
actually really good.
Okay. You gotta link it to me after for sure.
I will. I will.
Yeah,
I
you will.
got you.
You will. What about like artists, like new artists getting into the music industry? What are your thoughts about them trying to pursue music right now? You think it's good for them
I
too or
think it
no?
depends on like the age range of the musician because I actually feel like right now for younger musicians, like say for myself, if I just want to play guitar and like sing acoustic songs, like there's so much social media that I could just like go on TikTok, film it, and then like maybe it'll blow up, maybe it won't, but that's a shot you can take. And a lot of bands that I found recently that I enjoy, I've found because there's just one person sitting there playing guitar on like TikTok or Twitter or
Hmm.
Instagram. I'm like, oh, I actually really like this. So I feel like I mean, I come from music where the scene's DIY, like do it yourself.
Oh,
Like
cool.
all these like Midwest bands or like pop punk bands are like, we don't want record labels or anything promoting us. We're going to do the music ourselves. We're going to spread it ourselves. And then if we get signed to a label eventually, like that's fine. But we're going to start being like, do it ourselves. We're going to drive our own tour vans. We're going to get like a crappy like tour van, hop in it and go to a bunch of different places.
Yeah. Dane, I did not realize like how much like that side of like the states is very like independent and everything. I'm like, wow. Like, isn't it hard for like artists to actually like make it though? That's the thing. Like, wouldn't they just crash?
Uh, yeah, I mean, it depends on what the person's looking for. I feel like if you're in music to get like super famous and be big in music, you're not doing it for the right reason. So if you're just playing music and like going to live shows and stuff because you really love it, then I think people will like see that and be like, all
Yeah.
right, this is like this person's actually in it for the right reasons. And then I feel like those people are the type that grow more. But even then, even if you have a smaller audience, usually those audience are the most dedicated and they're the ones that'll
Sure.
like listen to all your music. And so I don't know, when it comes to the term like making it in the music industry, it's all about how you see it as a person. Like for me, like one of my favorite lines by the Front Bottoms is, I want this to mean something to anyone, even if they don't understand. Like if I were to put music out there, if it just like affects one person and they're like, I like this and I can like it helps them, then I've made it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, to me, I think a lot of these bands and artists, I think, realize, yo, if I'm like, what I've noticed a lot of bands and artists, if they made something to like help them mentally, like emotionally or anything out of the sort, that's basically what a lot of these artists say they made it, I think, at this
Yeah,
point.
because I mean, this happens a lot, but if you're just making a song to like uh be relatable, like you always hear rappers and stuff dissing people for
Mhm.
wanting to just make like relatable music or like just catchy choruses, stuff like that, then those are what I find to, I don't know, be the kind of hit or miss type bands. Like you could have a band like AJR, who kind of makes those just like catchy songs, but are also slightly relatable, and they blew up because they're doing it like their own way. But if you're just trying to make catchy songs and just be like, everyone's gonna like these because they're catchy, I feel like that's when you kind of don't gain traction.
Yeah, that is very, very true for sure. If you were a person, like, say your band, like in your music scene, gets approached by a label or a record company, would you do it?
Personally, I wouldn't, because
No.
again, like it's the whole DIY scene. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of like the draw of everyone in this scene, is to be like the band that didn't need any of that. And I mean, one of my favorite rappers is Chance the Rapper, who's one of the biggest independent artists out there. 3 Grammys, independent,
Dude's making
that's a
it.
dream. That's a
Yeah.
dream.
Like, I don't know much about Chance, but I listen to his stuff. He has good stuff, but like, still, the dude has really made it, and it's insane, like how he became independent and does his own. Like, it still baffles me. Like, depends on the certain like artists and everything, how big they are and how independent they could get. It's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Yeah.
A person in like, instead of like the DIY, of course, like, why
Yeah.
do you think people don't want to go to a label or record company, you think now?
I mean, you always hear people like using the term like quote unquote sell your soul or something like that.
Mhm.
Like, I think people are just so scared now because they've seen so many artists like go do it and then they change up completely from what they started with, which for me, honestly, I don't mind if an artist changes what they're like doing, but I think a lot of people care about artists sticking to who they are, and if you get signed to like a label or a big label, uh they just expect a band to just turn into that like uh only writing catchy chorus,
Yeah.
like hit, quote unquote hit songs, things like that. um so I think a lot of people are just scared now that they're gonna like either get screwed over by like a bad deal, or people are gonna stop listening because labels are gonna want to sell a certain amount of a album, things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, it depends on like the artist and everything, like, and also the contract. Like, to me,
Yeah.
what I've seen, it just depends on the record label. Like, what I know from a lot of these, what I've been talking to with a lot of artists, it's just mainly like these artists getting screwed over with like the money contract aspect of
Yeah.
it. Like, they get a loan, of course, from the record company, say, hey, this is the amount of money that we will give you to produce, say, said album or like EP, and you have to give us like over more of the amount that we lend you or whatever. That's the only thing that's really screwing a lot of these artists that I'm seeing, which kind of
Yeah.
sucks.
And then I'm sure, like, obviously, I've never talked to a label or I haven't been signed to a label, but I can assume that at some point they're going to expect you to like go on tour for a certain amount of dates, or put out this many albums or something in a year, which for
Mhm.
an artist has to be so hard. And I think that's where the whole writing songs that they don't really feel comes from, because they're just
Yeah.
pressured to write songs that maybe they're just not ready to finish yet.
Yeah, like I actually did a question at one specific band and asked them about this because the record company tweeted about saying, hey, they got brand new music coming out this year. I'm like, hey, dudes, what's going on about this? This was Thousand Below. And I asked them, hey, why is your record company saying, oh, you got new music this year? And they're like not even close to being done with music. And they're like, we don't know what's going on in their guys' heads or whatever. It's just,
Yeah.
it sucks for these companies, or like, hey, you got to get this done now, you know? And
Yeah.
they just can't produce music quickly, you know?
Yeah, and then like once you get signed by a label, you're quote unquote on to like a different playing field level. Like you're not writing music where if you're in a competition, which I mean, to be fair, if you're like playing songs on the radio and stuff and you're trying to get up the charts, you are in a competition.
Mm,
Like you're you're trying to write songs better than other people or sell more than other people, which means you have to put more music out in a certain amount of time so you have just more listeners and stuff like that. It's
yeah.
like I don't I personally, for me, that's not what I would want to do. Like I wouldn't want to be forced to be doing things like that. I would want to write naturally and how it
Same.
comes to me.
Same. Like, that's what I enjoy about artists taking what they want to make and going independent. Like, for me, I even mentioned this, I think, in my last one or the first one I put out for the podcast. Victoria Justice was on like music label or like the company like label or whatever, and she went independent now after so many
Yeah.
years in contract. And it's so nice to see like these big child stars or even those kind of people going independent and getting to say what they want to say. It's kind of cool and kind of good to actually speak about what they want to say.
And you just see a lot more people becoming independent now because they realize that they can do it. I think
Mm-hmm.
back in the day when like you could only listen to songs like on the radio or in album stores and stuff like that, you kind of had to get signed to a label because they were the people pushing your music.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like you can kind of get notoriety from like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, iTunes, Spotify,
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. Like you have all these access points where you could end up just becoming a big independent artist. But I know there are some labels out there, at least that I've noticed that I like I think Fueled by Ramen at some point has
Oh yeah.
had like 21 Pilots and the Front Bottoms on their label, and they seem to be a good label to be signed to.
It depends though. Like I know what is it? They have A Day to Remember right now on
Yes,
their
they do.
label, and a lot of people are like, "What are they doing?" I don't know.
Yeah,
And A Day to Remember was independent at one point, so I don't get why they went to Fueled by Ramen, which is very very interesting.
yeah. Um, yeah, they are on Fueled by Ramen. Okay, yeah. I just
Yeah,
wanted to make
yeah.
sure that was the right label. Yeah, that's who the Front Bottoms are on. And I mean, when they got signed to Fueled by Ramen, I personally think like their new album sounds great, and
Hmm.
they kind of took a different approach. Which usually, if you see a band go onto a label, they tend to not go like completely like shift directions, but the Front Bottoms went with like a fairly different approach to their music on this like new album. Like their writing style is still the same, but the actual way they compose the music is like completely different.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
that's
really
true.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good to actually like for me, if you change up your sound a little bit, like there's a couple bands that change up their sound always, and it's good to actually change up your sound and legit try and experiment with your music because you only live once, right? So it's good to actually do it
Yeah,
and see what your fans are reactions are and see, hey, should we go into this direction? Like I know was it G-Eazy finally actually went into like more R&B kind of weird
yeah,
soul kind of style there like last
yeah,
year or something, and it threw a lot of people off guard. And I thought he was going to do like under a different kind of name, but he just went off of like his regular name, which is pretty cool.
yeah. I mean, it's a huge gamble too, because like people could either love it or people could hate it. Like the Big
Right.
Day, people hated what Chance did with the Big Day. Personally, I don't mind it. I like it, but
Mm.
other people hated what he did with it.
There's also like being a Twitch streamer and all that kind of stuff, like DMCA. What are your thoughts about hearing all this DMCA stuff on the internet?
Oh man, it like I understand that Twitch as a platform is like we can't keep losing money because of like DMCA strikes, like, but I mean, I hate going into a stream and just listening to the same repetitive like EDM beats or something in the
Mm.
background of every stream. Uh, I mean, there are still a lot of smaller streamers that I watch that just don't care and play
Yeah.
whatever music they like. And that's like this a lot of streamers that I watch, my favorite part of watching them is listening to the music that they listen to, because a lot of streamers, or like some of my favorite streamers, are just streamers that are just chatting and they just play the music that they like and they sing along with it and they talk to chat and stuff. That's like always been my favorite type of stream to walk into. Or even people playing covers and stuff like that. And it just takes away from all of that. It takes it away from a whole different dynamic of a chatter talking to a Twitch streamer.
Yeah. Like
If you want to be able to talk about chatters relating to a Twitch streamer, that's like one of the easiest ways to do it, is to like figure out their music and be like, oh, you listen to these guys, I do too.
Like I specifically, like what I noticed that Twitch has added is their thing called soundtrack, and it adds like a little feature that I guess like Spotify has, that you could see, hey, what the song is playing during the background in the stream and everything. And it's supposed to be safe so it doesn't get DMCA'd and everything, but still most of that stuff on actually soundtrack does have DMCA stuff, which is kind of funny that they're contradicting themselves with it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's another problem with signing to like a label and producers, is then you have to worry about people not actually being able to promote your music in certain ways.
Yeah, like I watched, what is it, one streamer who's a big artist, Against the Current, Chrissy Constanza, I think that's her last name, and she was actually did like a whole entire like kind of like little kind of rant about the music industry and everything. I hope to get her on the podcast at one point. That'll be kind of cool. But like her talking about like the music industry as a whole and everything, and saying, yo, her friend wanted to play her brand new song on stream, but she can't because she doesn't have the rights to it. This record company, this label has it, but she wished she could play it, but she can't.
Yeah, like artists not owning rights to their own songs is what ultimately I think comes down to like, I like, if I were to put in the effort and be like, this is something I'm proud of that I made and now I don't own it, it's like, that's what I wouldn't enjoy. And when it comes to DMCA, like, for a good example is like Rex Orange County, for example. I know Tom's, is it 72 hours? He's like a Fortnite streamer. He played Rex Orange County on his streams a lot. And like, I'm not going to say at the time Rex Orange County was a small artist, because he wasn't in any means, but like people would always go in there and be like, who's this? And then he'd be like, Rex Orange County, go check him out. Like, and then people would check him out, and now he's like a bigger artist. I'm not going to say that's the reason, but it definitely helps with promotion and stuff like that.
Like,
so shout out 21 Savage for being one of the only like rappers to be like, yeah, guys, you can play whatever you want. Go ahead.
Like, it's funny, like there's a couple artists I know, like YouTube rappers and like the Twitch and like YouTube scene for like artists. I know like one specific artist I found like last year who's like big in like the YouTube scene, but also is like big in the Twitch scene, is Josh A. He's like a like YouTube kind of like rapper in a sense, but also like he's big time in a sense. But it's kind of cool, like his music is fully like DMCA free for like artists and creators, and it's nice to see that. Also, like the YouTube rap scene is actually like growing a lot, and it's good to see a lot of these artists are independent and they could give your music DMCA free.
Yeah, the musicians coming off of YouTube has been like huge. Like you've got KSI, Dax, Quadeca, like Crypt.
It's wide range of variety that you see on the YouTube platform, and it's good. It's growing massively, and I can't wait to see more on how the YouTube rap scene and just music from YouTube grows a lot more. Hell, Joji was from YouTube, man, and look at where he's at.
Dodie Clark, another good artist that has pretty much always like started on YouTube and like grown from there.
Well, even people said, I think even Justin Bieber was. I don't know if Ed Sheeran was. I forgot if he was or not. Yeah, what do you think about, like, we're going a little bit back on Twitch, but like, do you think Twitch is bigger than becoming, do you think you could get big off at Twitch, or should you get big off of being a music artist, do you think? Now,
what do you mean, like for like music, or just in general? Like, do you think you can grow more on
in I guess stay with music. So like, hey, let's get big off of music on Twitch, or should I get big off of music on, say, independent wise?
I don't know. I think personally, I would. I mean, you could probably expand your audience more on Twitch, but I think you grow more of a personal community when you're doing it independent. Because if you're
Hmm.
independent, like your inspirations and like uh experiences that you've gone through are literally in your like
Music scene.
everyday life and
Yeah.
are like right there in front of you. Where on Twitch, it's like the experiences you have can carry over there, and you can obviously play music for people on Twitch, but I just don't think it has the same like intimate feeling as uh like I mean, because like Twitch would just be a live concert like every day
True.
you're playing on there. But if you never like were to go on tour or something like that. But on the other end of things, I've seen a lot of people who, since COVID started, a lot of bands that just perform live on Twitch for concerts. And like the Front Bottoms is a great example. For quite a while, like every week during the summer, every Friday, they would play a set on Twitch and they would just play a live
That's cool.
performance. And it was super cool. And they'd sit down and answer questions from Twitch chat. But I think if you're trying to, I think if you're personally trying to grow as an artist and not grow like if you're trying to grow your music as an artist and not grow your fan base as an artist, you probably want it to be more in that inner like that intimate setting and like uh going through like your communities, playing for people that you know first, than just starting somewhere like playing it on Twitch.
Like, I totally agree. Like, you need to really, I guess, Twitch, you can grow that community and expand that into independent, but for sure, it's really like, if you can get backed on like your independent area, your local music scene, it's going to grow massively, I think, and a wide range of globally, probably even, I think, more
Yeah, yeah.
independent wise, because Twitch, you can blow up maybe tomorrow or never. That's the real question about Twitch.
Yeah, you're completely right. Like I mean there are a lot of music streamers on Twitch that I really enjoy. Like Gibson, he's an
Mm,
example. He's a great artist who does covers on Twitch and writes and plays his own music. But I feel like if I look at him, the people in his chat love his music and will listen to it. But I think Twitch is one of those platforms where it's like people are watching you so they don't have to go out and about and they can
yeah.
like focus their mind on something else. Whereas if you're putting stuff out like Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, and you're playing like live shows, the people that are listening to that music are the people that are more willing to come like see you play live when Corona's like over and stuff. They're the
Hmm.
people that are more willing to be more invested in your music.
I get that. Totally agree with you. Music influences for yourself, like favorite artists you really inspired to be like really influence your day to day life.
Yeah. So I have okay, definitely the Front Bottoms, Modern Baseball, Chance the Rapper, um, Mom Jeans. The only thing that I hate is that the type of music that I listen to, specifically
Hmm.
like pop punk and stuff like that, it's like it, everyone always turns out to be a shitty person in real life in the pop punk scene.
Yeah.
Hold
Okay.
on, my
Yeah.
dogs are
I
playing.
like it depends on like the pop punk scene. Like it depends on like the artist and everything. Like there's some 41 like the Offspring, right? I guess
Yeah, yeah.
it just depends.
Some 41 The Offspring, but then like recently you've had a lot of bands that have like people have come out and spoke against it. It feels like every other day a new pop punk band is like being just torched for being like shitty people. But as far as like my own influences, definitely Modern Baseball, the Front Bottoms, Sorority Noise is a big one that tackles like mental health, stuff like that.
That's
Um,
cool.
Slaughter Beach Dog. So unfortunately, Modern Baseball, like they broke up to take time for themselves mental health wise, and I
Hmm.
don't see them getting back together. But the one of the main singers from Modern Baseball started their own band called Slaughter Beach Dog, and
Ooh,
they are by far probably right now uh my favorite band outside of Modern Baseball.
that's good. That's good. That's cool. Is there any like small artists or like a relatively known artist that you've been getting into recently?
All right, so I would say right now I'm gonna say three that are from
Hmm.
different music genres. That way, it's like balanced. So The first one would be Jack Hayes, who is like one of these people that I found on TikTok. He's kind of he does two different types of music for the most part. He does like acoustic, like guitar songs that are awesome. I love them. And then he like kind of raps almost, I would compare a little bit like Lil Peep if you like that type of like
Okay.
rap music. And then Zach Bryan, he's a more country artist.
Country, okay.
He's yeah. I would say he's more towards like if anyone likes listening to Tyler Childers, he's on like that end of music, and super creative guy. I love his music. And then Lack Honey, who's another rapper. He's kind of similar to like his flow and the way he sounds is similar to Chance. And he also, something really cool that he does, if you want to follow him on Instagram, his Instagram's Lack Honey. He's a small artist. He goes to school in Tennessee. Almost like every night or every other night, he goes on his live story and he just produces beats on his Instagram live and starts rapping, like writing songs over them every night. So you get to like walk through his whole songwriting process, and it's super
Which
cool.
is cool. And then once the product's done, you'll get to see what his like the end product will be like once it finally is out, which is kind of cool. He'll do at least like the basic start of it, but then after probably like, hey, this is what I did on Instagram Live like a couple months back, right?
So like literally he just goes on live, he starts producing a beat, and then like one of the tips that I've learned from him, which I've heard other people like say, but I've never really like put it into place, is, I mean, he does more rapping stuff, but what he'll do is he'll like figure out a line that he wants to say or something after the like once he has the beat like produced, and then he'll just kind of mumble through the song to get like the flow down. And that's like a really good tip for like, and like you don't actually have to say words when you're figuring out how you want the song to go. And it's I don't know, it's just such a cool creative process to go through.
Interesting to know that.
And he's also a super nice guy. He was like he sold like some hats for like $5 like a while back in the summer. So I bought a hat, and he wrote me a hand note on the letter that he sent it to me on. And he was like, "Hey man, thanks so much for buying. Keep up the great Twitch streams." And I was like, no way he's watched me on Twitch, dude.
That's cool, man. That's really cool. I love, that's one thing I generally love about like small artists and creators. They generally like check up on you and see how you're doing, what you're doing with life. It's kind of cool, but also sucks when, hey, they get to the big level, right? And then you can't really reach them anymore.
Yeah.
But hopefully he does pick up. Like, that's pretty cool that he does that.
I mean, he opened for 21 Savage.
What? I did not.
Yeah, 21 Savage did like a festival, and he opened for him. It was dope.
Dude, you need to send me all these guys that you recommended, man. Well, Andrew, shout yourself out. What do you want the people to know about you, sir?
I mean, nothing. Don't worry about me, but definitely go check out like Jack K's Lack Honey, LACKHONEY, Lack Honey, Zach Bryan. They've all recently like put out music or albums like very recently. So if you want to go check those people out, check them out. They're dope.
For sure. Also, actually, I wanted to tell you, I found an artist on TikTok actually called Azo. I think it's AUZZO. It's kind of like the Little Peep kind of style, kind of vibe for that guy. And he's from TikTok and whatever. I've been seeing all of his like TikTok videos of like kind of trending and everything. I'm like, okay, this guy sounds pretty good. But yeah, for sure, check him out.
I think I do know who this is.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how I found him. I'm like, oh, he's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, man. I think this was sick.
Yeah, man.
Wait, where can we listen to the podcast?
Where you can listen to the podcast, you can find it on all social media. It's the Music Storm Podcast. So for Instagram, it's Music Storm Podcast. And for Spotify, iTunes, and all of that, you could just search it on the platforms.
Right,
that's it, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah.